It's time for Twig This Week in Google. Gina and Jeff are here along with Andy Ihnatko, who's fresh off the iPad 2 announcement. Will Gina buy one? Oh my goodness. We'll find out next on Twig.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for This Week in Google is provided by Cachefly. Cachefly.com. This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 84, recorded March 2nd, 2011. Fatspotting. This Week in Google is brought to you by Carbonite. Backing up the files on your PC or Mac is safe and easy with Carbonite. For a free trial, plus 2 free months with purchase, go to Carbonite.com. Offer code TWIG. And by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to publish a high-quality website or blog. For a free 14-day trial, go to squarespace.com/twig. And by Freshbooks, the easy online invoicing service that gets you paid quickly and makes you look professional. Get started with a free package today at freshbooks.com. It's time for Twig This Week in Google and the Cloud. And joining us right now to talk about the cloudy weather, Mr. Andy Ihnatko, who has been at the Apple iPad announcement event just minutes ago, wrapped up. Andy's in his hotel lobby, and he's going to give us his take on iPad 2. Thanks for joining us, Andy.
Thanks for finally getting me in here. I'm glad. I hope that people will enjoy the shot of up my nose, but they're worse live video screens on the internet today.
Yeah, well, I agree. And Gina Trapani is also here from San Diego, where she has already decided she's buying an iPad 2.
I have. I want to talk about it. I'm a traitor
to the cause. That's what Jeff Jarvis says. Jeff is the blogger at buzzmachine.com, the author of What Will Google Do? Of course, Gina's smarterware.org. Welcome all. Time to talk about Google in the cloud, although I guess because Android tablets are the hot item. In fact, you could buy a Zoom. Anybody have a Zoom yet? Andy, did you get a Zoom?
I have a Zoom in the house for testing. It's probably going to go back a few weeks, but yeah, I've had it for a couple now.
XOOM. That's the Motorola honeycomb-based tablet. And one of the things that I thought was very surprising was Steve Jobs taking direct aim at honeycomb. He had a little bee icon that he would use to show how useless honeycomb was, how few apps and all of that. It's the first time I can remember Steve himself making such targeted attacks at competitors. Usually it's considered better to not mention the competition, but obviously Steve felt like this is time to go after Android. Did you notice that, Andy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the iPad 2 was just one of the 2 sets of announcements at this show. Mostly it was there to demonstrate not just that the iPad will continue to be competitive against all these new tablets coming out in 2011. The message was actually that we do not expect to have any competition through 2011. We have seen the enemy, and he is not us.
Yeah, it was a very self-congratulatory event. I mean, the long video at the beginning about how great the iPad was. I didn't see the video, but it seemed like it was kind of a tearjerker.
It was your basic talking head in front of a white screen sort of thing. How it's happening. It's helping doctors. It's helping kids with certain disabilities. Yeah, there was a lot of, it is a magical device and it's working its magic towards all humanity. Not sickening, but it was definitely up there.
And yet, Gina,
it's very nice.
And yet, Gina, you drank the Kool-Aid.
I did. I've been in the market for a tablet for a while. Ever since I sold my Kindle, I decided I wanted to get a tablet, and I wanted to wait to see what the first official Google tablet would be, which is basically the Zoom with honeycomb.
Right.
And then I wanted to wait, which I was very tempted by. I nearly had a meltdown in Best Buy last week. I was like, it's really cool. I thought, and then I said, okay, you know what? I got to wait until Wednesday, March 2nd, just to hear what Apple has to say. And I decided I'm going to get the iPad just because, honestly, to me, it's like, first of all, I'm pretty conservative when it comes to buying gadgets. I feel much more comfortable buying second generation. It's so thin, and it just, the 2 cameras, the fact that it's been on the market for a year now and has apps that have been developed for the platform is really attractive to me. And honestly, just as a developer and as a commentator, I haven't used iOS seriously in a long time, and I want to just be able to make sort of informed and objective comparisons between Android and iOS. I mean, so many of my heroes, like the Marco Arments and the even the Grubers, who I know is just a big Apple fan, they insist that iOS has this this magic in it that Android doesn't, and I want to kind of understand that a little more. So yeah, I'm going to get the iPad. I'm going to develop for the iPad. I'm porting my app from Android to iOS, which is a big part of my reason. And I'm going to kind of be able to be on both sides of the fence. I also use Windows 7 and Mac OS 10 as well.
Right.
For similar reasons.
In all fairness, Gina, I have both since I have my iPhone and my Galaxy Tab. So I'm
yeah, there you go. Yep.
I'm by OS myself.
Yeah, I'm by, try, throw Linux in the mix.
Are you going to get a, what do they call it, the smart case, the smart cover? I don't know how it's smart. It's a bit of rubber with magnets.
It's magnetic, right? The magnets are smart?
Yeah.
It's pretty damn cool because not only does it add practically nothing to the size of the case, if you would have seen me like at the demo area trying to play out the game where I bet there's a little mouse inside the refrigerator who turns off and on the light. I bet if I open and close the door really quick, I can catch them.
So does it turn on the screen when you flip the cover back?
It's incredible. I mean, even if you pull the screen off and the screen wakes and the device wakes up, you close it and it automatically goes to sleep. And I was actually shooting video of this. I'm kind of pathetic. If you just lift up a corner of it and slap it back down, for that fraction of a second that corner is up, it wakes up and then sleeps again.
Oh, that's hysterical.
It's you wait until you actually hold one of these in your hands. You would think that, my God, I can't believe I'm actually waxing poetic about a damn cover, but it's Apple. They can't just say, well, what if we just mold something out of vinyl and slip it in there? It's going to have magical magnetic connectors that automatically finds the right place and automatically interacts with the device itself.
I have to say
cool.
That's pretty impressive that they could get people, especially since this is pure profit, right? I mean, it's a piece of rubber with magnets that costs $30.
Yeah. Yeah.
Andy, do you think that if you had the iPad with the cover on sorry.
Andy's a little lagged because he's in the hotel lobby.
Right, because on the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Is that cover? My concern about the cover, I totally dig the magnet idea. It looks a little flimsy. Am I going to be able to take the iPad with just that cover, without the wraparound, put it in my bag with, maybe a regular notebook and a couple other items, and it's not going to come off? I mean, are those magnets strong? Is it really going to protect the screen in a bag with other things, or am I going to need a sleeve on top of that cover?
The magnet is really very, very strong. I actually lifted up the iPad on those magnets.
Really?
I wasn't joking. I wasn't just like twitching it around, but I carefully lifted it up, and yeah, it did actually come up with the thing. I think that you're more in danger. The only thing that I would be worried about is when I put it in this big noisy sort of bag with all the stuff in it, are the magnets going to be attracted to anything else in the bag? Will it be possible for me to sort of like shear the magnets off the side of it? But the thing is, when the cover is in place, and here's the bottom line, it really feels as though it's a built-in cover that's held on firmly by screws. Once you put this on, it really does feel as though it was a design element. It really is Apple explaining that the reason it's not $39 because it's $39 worth of stuff. It's $39 because we put about $100 worth of thought into how to make a cover for this device.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. If you really want to spend money, you can also get a $70 leather version of the same thing.
I cannot believe that I'm going to buy this freaking cover, but I am.
Well, you know what? You almost have to, because all the existing iPad covers will block the camera. So you until other.
Well, but they're I'm sure they're gonna switch to the new one soon. But it has another really cool trick on it. If you roll it up, there are magnets actually inside the cover itself that will turn it into a wedge that will hold it at the right typing angle, so it's not like it'll fall apart. And Apple says that this isn't going to be like MagSafe connectors where they own the technology and you have to buy a license to use it. Essentially, if you want to design something that has magnets in it, and a magnet is a magnet is a magnet.
There's magnets in the iPad, so it really is a strong bond, as well as in the cover.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's the old act, Leo, Senior Wenceslas.
Senior Wenceslas.
Hello,
Eddie.
Hello,
yeah.
hello.
Hello, Eddie.
Means nothing to you, Gina.
But what does it have to? It means nothing to me. What does it have to do with that? Is it look a Senior Wences
It's like
cover?
there's a little box, and you say hello. That's the way the thing strikes me.
It's $39 of
Hello,
pure
hello.
profit for Apple. That's really what it is.
I think you've just defined the iPad 2 version of the flashlight app. The first guy who does a Senior Wences app that does whenever it lifts up, exactly.
It
charges
says
99
hello.
cents for it. It'll make $100,000 in a month and then never sell another one after 2 months.
It also reminds me of Quick Draw McGraw. Hey, Baba Louie, all right? Saturday. Which
I
is
wonder if they can expose the Magnet API to developers, though. Are developers going to get a sense of their app?
I can't believe we're talking about a freaking Magnet API. There it is. Let me just show you the hello, Andy. I got to go back here. This is
Magnet API.
The Magnet. Well, you know, there is an open Magnet API that all Apple devices are now supporting. There it is. That's the Senior Wences moment. Hello. Hey, Baba Louie. Saturday, Debbie. Oh, hello.
Chat Web 1627 in the chat room says, "Damn, Jeff is so old."
Well, if Jeff's old, I'm as old. So, we lost Andy. Let's get him back on. But, so what is it, Gina? Though you don't have an Android tablet.
I do not. I do not have an Android tablet.
What is it about this that makes you want it?
The iPad?
Yeah.
The fact that it's been around for a year and the apps are built for it, that it's mature, that it's so light, that the battery life is so long. The Zoom's battery life wasn't great. The form factor on the iPad just looks amazing. I mean, listen, I'm not saying that I won't ever have a honeycomb tablet. I just think that it's just too early. And I kind of felt this. I didn't get the iPad when it first came out because I kind of felt like, let this be out for a while. I haven't decided whether or not there's room for a tablet or I need a tablet. But once I sold my Kindle, I was like, I want a tablet. And it seems clear to me that right now, at this moment in time, the iPad is the most superior tablet on the market. Not to say that an Android tablet won't catch up at some point. But yeah, it looks really cool. And I fell for the whole case thing. Like, I'm going to buy the case.
So, Andy, you've held it because they had a demo room. Does it feel lighter and thinner? Is it noticeable difference?
It really does. I mean, I had my iPad with me, obviously, and I was holding both of them in my hands, and I'm sorry, but I don't know how they got all that space out of it. But by the time you're holding an iPad 2 in your hands, you feel as though you're holding the thinnest object of any use whatsoever you've ever held in your hand. It's just boggling. I actually had to put them both screen down side by side to make sure I wasn't just imagining that, I bet they just tapered the edges down. No, it is that much thinner, and it feels that much thinner. And after having spent the past 2 or 3 weeks playing with a whole bunch of different honeycomb tablets, nothing on Android. When a consumer comes in with $500 or $600 or $700 in their pocket with a desire to buy a tablet, nobody is going to pick up an iPad 2 and anything else and think that anything else is in that same class. It has that kind of a response to it.
My problem, at this point, I could probably save face by saying, well, now that it has 2 cameras, of course.
Yeah, Jeff, we should, just to rub it in, point out that very famously had a reboxing of his iPad.
But your reboxing was more about the fact that it's a consumption device.
Political.
And you felt
it was. But
you didn't want to
some other stuff. But the problem I have now really is I'm addicted to the size of the Galaxy Tab.
Yeah.
The fact that it's in my pocket and I'm thumb typing. I imagine I'm gadget nut. Honey, I really need to have the iPad because my students are developing newspaper things. I need to see what Rupert's doing. I can play it up. I can do it, right? But then I don't know how I use it still because it won't fit my pocket.
Well, here's one thing, speaking to that original objection that I thought was very interesting. They really emphasized GarageBand and iMovie in the talk today, and it does in a way address that issue of it being a content consumption device.
Yeah.
Very much more with the
camera,
those 2 applications, the ability to shoot 720p video. It does look a little bit more like a content creation device. And I tell you, with the camera apps on iOS, that's going to be an impressive camera.
Yeah. I think it's a different message entirely. I think one of the main reasons why they pushed out those 2 apps is because they are really going to be banner holders for here's the difference between how good an app can be on an iPad, and please consumer, go ahead and compare this to any app you'd like on Android. It really underscores the general attitude of we don't feel as though there's going to be any competition for the iPad in 2011. Although your point is very well made. I did spend some time building things with iMovie and with GarageBand. And boy, that might be the iPad version of iMovie might be one of my favorite video editors.
Yeah.
Speaking as somebody who always hates video editors,
No, it's a natural way to edit.
Interesting to slide these things out. For example,
You're handling it. It's very visceral.
Yeah.
And that clearly is what Apple's starting to say. And I think that with the new laptops with Thunderbolt on them and the ability to do a touch screen, I think iOS and touch is going to, this is in a way pushing us more in that direction of full screen apps, which OS X Lion will support, iOS style interfaces. I know Steve says we don't want to reach out and touch, and I agree with him on a laptop screen, but I have to say, it's such a natural interface for some things like GarageBand and like iMovie that we're going to be clamoring, I think, for that ability.
One of my other issues back when was the difficulty of getting stuff on it without a USB. How have you found using it now?
I think one thing they did that was stunning is this HDMI mirroring adapter, which means it's now a home theater device. You put
not only that, but the fact that every single iOS app gets video mirroring for free. They don't have to support it; it just simply exists. Take the 9 times graphical performance, and also take the fact that it has a built-in gyroscope, and think about the games that can be built with this thing.
This is a controller for your big screen TV.
Exactly. You plug that into an HD TV now, and you will have something pretty formidable as a gaming device.
Very intriguing.
Interesting.
Did you find out, Andy, because they don't say it anywhere, even in the tech specs on the website, what the resolution of that rear-facing camera is?
No.
All they've said is
I did try to email email myself a picture, but no go.
Yeah. I'm going to guess that it's the same as the iPhone 4, but it may not be that good. All they said is 720p, 30 frame per second video, but you could do that with a flip cam with upscaling. They don't say native 720p. Yeah. So until we know the resolution, that could be a sticking point.
I'm not going to even guess. What I found interesting was the fact that the camera app for the iPad is identical to the camera app for the iPhone. So you do have selective focus, you do have selective exposure, but it's not as though they decided to use that extra screen real estate to put some extra features in the app. It is just the same app you get before.
Well, that's an opportunity for people like Lisa Bettany and third-party camera apps. You're right, Gina. I know Gina's going like this.
Am I going to be walking around taking pictures like this?
It's kind of weird.
Slab in my hand,
I think you are. I think you're going to get used to it.
So.
And I think especially with video, I can see this, because this is a full screen monitor. I mean, I can see you shooting video like this, and you're really seeing what you're getting.
Right. Andy, did you try Movie Studio in Honeycomb, and how did you think that it compares to iMovie?
I did try Movie Studio. I didn't build anything start to finish with it, but partially because I was kind of thrown off by the interface. I think that the Movie Studio is a functional app. I think that iMovie is an app you'll use because you'll want to use it. Rather, Movie Studio, you use it because it's the app that's on the device and it does an okay job. Yeah. Whereas iMovie is going to be, hey, since I'm waiting for my plane anyway, why don't I cut together a really good video and post it to Facebook, post it to YouTube, post it to CNN before my flight boards.
Interesting. See, this would be really interesting for me because I'm not a movie editing girl. Movie editing, I love it, and I took a weekend-long workshop on it, and it took me literally 8 hours to cut together my final project, which was about 5 minutes, right? So it's like I love it, but it's exhausting. It takes so much time. So I'm really interested to see whether or not iMovie on the iPad will move me and be easy enough for me to do more of that.
Not to turn this into Mac Break Weekly, as they say in the chat room. Right now, but
well, we're going to get to Google stuff. We'll let Andy go, but this is a big story. We're going to cover it.
I agree. I'm asking. It's my fault. I'm asking questions. So the changes that I will get on my iPhone, that includes hotspot.
Well,
yes, that's. There was also a preview of iOS 4.3, which is going to be released the same day as the iPad. And yes, mobile hotspot is coming to every phone that runs 4.3, so you will have it on AT&T as well as Verizon. But it will not be available on the iPad, though.
What remains to be seen is how much AT&T might charge you for it, so forth and so on. What kind of limitations the carrier might put on it.
What it says is that in terms of,
because by the way, hotspot has been available in Europe, right? This is not new.
Yep.
But if my point is this: if I were to get an iPad, one can now more easily get it without a phone contract. get the $4.99.
Well, you can always get it for $4.99 without a phone contract.
Well, but you could use your
Wi-Fi. It's more usable
your,
now.
Yeah, use your iPhone,
You have an iPhone
tether.
or you have an Android phone,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
now you can be pretty much guaranteed of hotspot.
Right.
Then
you don't need 3G because you got the 3G here,
Right.
and then it just kind of beams it over.
problem with that for my Galaxy tab, the reason I went back and switched to getting it, A, was because it has hotspot. I needed hotspot. B, because I wanted to do the mobile stuff with it, so I wanted it to be mobile aware. If you buy the iPad without a mobile contract, does it have GPS?
Only the 3G model has GPS.
Right.
However, you can buy the 3G model without buying a contract. It is always month to month.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that if you're trying to save money on this and trying to buy something less expensive and get the functionality, what you give up is mobile aware things, geo aware things. With the hotspot, otherwise you're kind of okay.
Yeah, GPS is missing from the Wi-Fi.
Right. That's the main thing you would give up.
Right.
If you have it, just for the listeners, if you have an iPhone, you go to hotspot, you get the cheaper iPad, you're okay except for that.
Precisely.
Right. Yeah, the other thing I saw in Canada, Roger, I think it's Rogers. Rogers just did a new a plan in Canada when I was up there a week ago. That finally has the plan where you can do multiple SIMs, multiple devices under one data plan. And finally, that makes perfect sense. You pay $10 a month more per device.
Who would think that Rogers would end up being an enlightened company?
Exactly.
It's like the last company
I wouldn't have thought so at all.
Having worked for them.
I want that so much, right? I want to be able to have, and they should want me to want it, right? I want 5 devices, 6 devices, and not have to do another huge contract because they don't know what they're missing in terms of the things I won't buy because I'm not going to do a full $80 a month contract. It makes it too expensive.
All right. Anything else to say? I'm going to let Andy go because we're going to go to. There's a lot of other Gmail and Google search stuff to talk about. But anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah,
Andy?
I got one question for you both. Since I didn't watch the video, how'd Steve look?
Steve looked great. A lot of people, it was a big surprise. He got a big hand from everybody in the room. He looked no different than he did from previous appearances. Also, I have to admit that when he left the stage for the video, I was thinking, okay, now is he going to disappear? But no, he was just standing just off stage.
He did the whole thing, just as always.
Did the whole thing standing up, and at the end, he seemed just as strong and he was in just as good a voice as he was at the very beginning.
I know his doctor from a personal relationship, and then also saw him in Europe. And of course, he's not going to say anything about Steve's particular case. But he was he wrote emails to some of these doctors who, not knowing a damn thing about the case, were speculating about it in the press, saying, "How dare you?"
Yeah,
and everything that Steve's body has gone through, God knows. But he, joke about him here and there, but he's our hero, man.
Yeah, and he got a standing ovation when he walked on stage, and I have to say, I would have been there standing up with everybody else.
But he wouldn't let you there, Leo.
No, he doesn't like me, but that's okay. I still like him. Andy Ihnatko, thank you so much for coming all this way to cover the event for us. We really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us on This Week in Google.
Good to see you, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Good to see you guys.
Thanks for the flocked wallpaper, and we'll see you.
Barbary coast action there.
To answer one question on Twitter, I am not in a bordello. This is just a very nice, very nicely decorated hotel lobby.
All San Francisco hotels look like bordellos. That's just the nature of the beast. Thank you, Andy.
Exactly.
Take care. Andy Ihnatko, Chicago Sun-Times, and the Celestial Waste of Bandwidth, CWOB.com. And he was in there with the press covering the announcement. We do have if you want to watch the full analysis as we did it live this morning on TWiT, that will be Mac Break Weekly, which should be out by now, and you can download that and listen to that. They didn't stream this as they have the last 2 events, but we were able to talk along with the live blogging. It was somewhat Tom Merritt and I kind of likened it to the old days of radio where they would do baseball games via telegraph. This just in.
It's frustrating they didn't stream it. It seemed like a step backwards.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And I have to say with the iPad, there were certain things I was disappointed about. I'm sorry that there wasn't a Retina display. I'm sorry there wasn't a price drop. And I'm sorry that I'm going to have to rebuy apps twice. But then again, it's like if I have to buy Angry Birds twice, that's fine.
You don't have to rebuy.
in the Android market.
Yeah. Anything you'd bought on iOS, though, you could bring over. But you don't have anything in iOS, do you?
Right.
But you've got to buy separate apps for the iPad versus the phone.
Not necessarily. In fact, a surprising number of apps work on both.
Oh, they're just now compatible.
They do it's called universal. And as time has gone by, I think more and more apps are universal.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So we're going to take a break. There is a lot to talk about. Google changed their algorithm significantly, causing one major media company to fire 10% of its staff yesterday. We'll talk about that, the Gmail outage, and more in just a bit. You're watching Twig This Week in Google with Gina Trapani, smarterware.org, Jeff Jarvis, buzzmachine.com. This show brought to you today by Carbonite online backup. You got to back it up to get it back and do it right with Carbonite. I could just make that the commercial. It all rhymes. It all goes together. It all makes sense. Why Carbonite? First of all, it's automatic. You don't have to think about it. That's very important. Any backup solution that just doesn't happen automatically is not going to make it. And it's not backing up to a local hard drive. Now, why is that important? Well, what if, in fact, I encourage you to still make local backups. Use an external drive or a USB key or CD-ROM or whatever, because it's convenient. But what if the worst happens? What if there's a fire, flood, an earthquake, and you lose everything? Somebody breaks in, steals your computer and the external hard drive. That's not a real backup. Every backup expert I know says you got to have an off-site backup, and that's what Carbonite does. Automatically, whenever you're connected to the internet, Carbonite is trickling your data up to the cloud where it's safe. Not only in case of disaster, but you can access that data. It's really offline access. You can access that data anywhere, anytime, from any system. Just log on to your Carbonite account. There's your data. They even have a free iPhone and BlackBerry app. So your data is always accessible and available. So it's kind of like, cloud storage in addition to backup. And the price is right. It's the last man standing on unlimited. $55 a year gets you unlimited backup from one machine, of the internal drive on one machine, your personal data. Obviously it's not going to back up, 800 external drives, but the internal drive on your existing machine. And it also uses your bandwidth. So I do want you to try before you buy. Make sure that, you have sufficient bandwidth and the speed is adequate for you. Sometimes I get emails from people saying, it's going to take me a week to back up my 300 gigabytes. So it's like, well, dude, yes, it's not magic. Of course it is. Because it's very gentle. It's humane. It doesn't tie your system up. It doesn't tie your bandwidth up. But it does. Once you get that first backup done, and that should take a week or so, then always up to date, and I love that. Try it free for 2 weeks right now. Go to Carbonite.com. Use the offer code TWIG. If you decide to buy, you'll get 2 additional months for free. Carbonite, backup done right. Don't come crying to me if you don't do it. Carbonite.com. Speaking of backup, Gmail. Woo. Now, it's only they say only 0.02% of all Gmail users. But that must
a lot of Gmail users.
That's tens of thousands of people.
That's scary to happen to you.
Yeah, terrifying. So
I would have panicked for sure.
Gina, what happened? There was an outage?
There was an outage. So the official company story is they released software that had a bug that got disseminated to their various Gmail servers before they caught it. So the data, their hot backups, it ruined their hot backups basically. They had to bring back the Gmail data from tape. Tape, which is why it took so long for them to get it back online. Yeah, scary stuff. I mean, hey, this happens. Bugs happen. But if if you depend on your email and it's in the cloud, and this goes for every kind of cloud service, it's always kind of a good idea to have a little bit of a backup plan, just in case this kind of thing can happen. I mean, kudos to Google for being transparent about it, for being communicative, for explaining what happened and explaining what they did to bring it back. It makes me really happy that they have hot backup and cold storage. So if things went terribly wrong, they'd bring back my email. But if it was the middle of the week and I had some really important email that I couldn't get to, I'd be pretty freaked.
People are out for like 7 or 8 hours. There was no email at all.
Yeah, that's
nothing was lost, but that's no email at all for 7 or 8 hours is a big deal.
Right. This is kind of my Gmail nightmare. My Gmail nightmare is actually trying to log in and being locked out and not being able to get to my stuff and being just one person with no voice. I mean, this was like an outage that affected a lot of people. People were going crazy talking about it. It got coverage. They communicated what was going on, that kind of thing. Either way, if you're storing kind of mission critical information in the cloud, it's always a good idea to have a backup and to back up your Gmail.
And so what's the best way to do that? Is it Backupify? Is it, what are the
Kevin
what are the
Purdy wrote
now?
a good article on Lifehacker here. suggested. Yeah.
He did. There are several options. You can use something like Backupify, which is an automated thing.
That's what I use. Love it.
Yeah, you pay for it. It's automated. Just kind of does it in the background. Set it, forget it. You can do things like back up your Gmail to a Hotmail account, so you kind of have redundant cloud backup.
That's fine. I mean, what are the chances of Google and Microsoft flopping at the same time?
Right, exactly. What are the chances? Exactly. And then there's nerds like me. Like I do, I'm crazy. I have once a month, I fire up Thunderbird and I pop all my Gmail from the previous month, and I have kind of a local backup, which, isn't a great solution, because if it's the last day of the month, I still don't have a month's worth of email. But I like the idea that I have my backup, and then it backs up to my backup service and on my Time Machine drive.
It's your data, and then it's searchable too. I mean, it's kind of like you have the database of all of your emails. I think that's a nice thing to do, and it's free.
It would be smart for Google to make deal. It doesn't say a very good PR thing for them if they say, "Oh, you better back up on someplace."
Right.
But on the other hand, for all these services to say, "Listen, it's your data, so here's some options for you. Here's how you're portable." It would take away the, "Oh my God, they have my data and they've imprisoned me."
Well, I mean, I think the IMAP and POP access is that. You know what I mean? I think they couch it in like, hey, you can get it. We can get us in it. You get Gmail on any client, but you can also use it as backup. They've never kind of explained it as a backup. Although Matt Cutts back in 2008, I think did a blog post like, hey, here's how to use FetchMail or another command line client to sort of schedule backups of via POP. So
FetchMail is also in that life. Actually, you're the one who wrote the article on FetchMail. I
had written up the article on FetchMail, but then I gave up and I just went with Thunderbird because I was dealing with different PCs and Sigwin and all that madness.
So if you weren't on Windows, you could install FetchMail on your Mac or your Linux box, right?
Right, and you could cron a job that pulls it.
That's what you want to do. That would be a great way to do it. Oh, but you have to have ProcMail, XM, and FetchMail. Oh boy.
Yeah, there's a
lot to install.
There's a lot of nerdness happening there.
Yeah.
And just a lot to install and configure. And my solution, which is I have to remember to bring up Thunderbird and pop my mail, or bring up to any kind of local mail client, which is also not great. But I have just a recurring event on my calendar to do it, which makes me feel better. Backup,
I guess, is always the rule. And and the good news is Gmail followed the rule. Google had backups. It just was off for a while. See, a backup isn't going to solve that fundamental issue of you're not in touch. Not only should you have a backup, you should have a second email solution.
Right. When you use Google Apps for your domain, I can move my email address to any service provider and it doesn't change. You know what I mean? If you're using vanilla Gmail, but then again, Gmail gives you the option, right, to send. You can send from any address.
So here's what I would do. In fact, what I do. I have Leo at leoville.com. That's not a mail server. That's my server, and it uses an MX record to forward the mail first to Gmail, but then I pop it from Fastmail, which is an IMAP solution, and I actually use Fastmail as my connectivity. So I have copies of everything on Gmail and Fastmail. If Gmail were to go down, it's just a simple change of a DNS record to say, oh, don't send it to Gmail, send it right to Fastmail, and I'm no worse off. So that's a way to do it.
That's good redundancy. Yeah. That's really good redundancy.
Yeah. The sad thing now is you have even more copies of the 1,000 emails a day that you can't answer.
I don't want. But I'll never lose them. Someday I may retire, and you may get an email response from me like 30 years later.
20 years of Viagra spam.
Yeah.
I can't die until I answer all my emails.
I could use that Viagra now. You guys still in business? It would be funny if I started answering email.
We got an Impotence joke and a Viagra joke on the same show.
Unbelievable. Why do you take this personally, Jeff? It would be funny if I started answering email 30 years later. Hey, I got your email back in 2007.
Well, it's like those great stories you see on TV. They love the story where suddenly Mabel's email was lost in the post office for 60 years.
Yes.
Now this is the email equivalent of that.
It's the dead letter file, right?
Yeah, I like the idea.
That'd be a really fun meme. Go back at your Gmail, find a 5-year-old email, and just respond to it.
Oh, that would be fun. I did that by accident. I did that by accident.
I heard this on TWiT. Didn't you have an email from your Tech TV pals?
Yeah.
Show up in your inbox?
Well, it was because it was when I was setting up this Gmail Fastmail thing, and so I fetched. You can go back in time and fetch all your Gmail, and I did, and it was back 2006 or something. It was an early TWiT email, and I didn't realize, I didn't see the date, and I thought this was a new email, and I responded to all, And I think it was just this weird, strange dissonance for people that they were getting this email about a topic that they had discussed 5 years ago.
I love it.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. It was dead lettery. So we are going to talk about Google's new algorithm. You know, poor Jason at Mahalo, he says he fired 10% of his staff because he's seen a dramatic drop in hits because Google has deprecated their content. So
the irony is that Mahalo is more human.
They're not really demand media.
Yeah, they're not really a farm. I don't think. Are they?
So I don't think so. So I guess back to Gina. What the hell happened here? What is this? There's a new algorithm.
Yeah, so so Google changes the algorithm to reduce, lower quality content placement in results.
That's a constant. They're always doing that.
They're always doing that, right? But it sounds like this algorithm change was especially sort of targeted toward content farms, however you define those.
Is it demand media or is it something else?
It's primarily demand.
Yeah, it's primarily demand. That seems to be word on the street, right? I mean, Google
right, but that's what Google said. It's not demand. No, it's like these link farms. It's just another form of link farm, right?
That too. If you look at the list of who was affected, it was link farms and content farms.
Now, I saw that list, and we had Kara Swisher here on Sunday on TWiT, and she had just spoken to Yahoo, which bought the demand media company. I can't remember their name.
Associated Content.
Associated Content. Associated Content was on that list. In fact, it was like number 5 of sites that were kind of pushed down. And she says Yahoo denied it. That in fact, they said we won't really know for quite a bit longer whether it's impacted us or not.
So did demand, but these were independent stats from elsewhere.
Right.
And I think that as we discussed, Google does not have the problem that the negative PR would make us believe they have. Nonetheless, the PR is a problem, and they had to deal with this, and it affects their reputation. And so, I think there's a flight from crap that, we've always had crap. As I always say, the internet has always been filled with crap. That's not the issue. The internet, the problem is finding the good stuff, and Google, in perception, was getting less good at finding the good stuff. And I'm interviewing Marissa Meyer and Tim Armstrong at CUNY next week for the start of. Oops! I just realized. Am I gonna? Yeah, I'll be on the show beforehand.
Oh, good. I wish you could go after. We'd love to hear the results of that.
Well, it'll be a lot later. It'll be a lot later. So I'll tell you. And it starts at 6:00. So I have to be off on time. But other than that,
we will get you off on time.
But what I want to question both about, especially after Armstrong's PowerPoint of the AOL way and Google doing this, is are we trying to improve the quality of the web? I think that what people tend to use more and more is Twitter and Facebook and peer links.
Well, and that's what's hurting Google, right? They're using social search.
So that's really the issue to me is the quality matters there, that they've got to find ways to improve that quality.
You're competing with a curated search, curated, in fact, by your social graph. I mean, that's pretty damn good.
Exactly. Now, as Matt said on this very show, really long before this argument came out, is he said here on Twig that they were looking for signals of originality and quality.
Right.
And that, what's the line between crap and spam? Who said?
The lines are really blurry, right?
They
That's
are.
the issue. How do you define content farm? But, how many people share links to Mahalo or eHow to their friend, like recommend them to their friends? If I want to learn how to unplug my toilet, I'm probably going to get an eHow article, right?
But are you going to like it on Facebook?
But am I going to star it on, right? Am I going to like it in Reader? Am I going to star it on, am I going to share it on Twitter? Am I going to post it to my blog?
No.
Probably not.
No. Those links tend to be topical content, right? Mostly. So what about non-topical content? Yeah, you don't share non-topical content that much. Maybe you do. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Almost always when I share something, it's newsy. Or of great interest, but it tends to be, in fact, when I see on Hacker News or other places articles that are several years old, I go, what? Didn't you read it when it came out? What are you linking to it now for?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. But freshness is a signal, right? I mean,
it is. It's a big part of the signal.
I think one of the key signals here that will make media companies happy is brand. Right?
Right, because demand media is supposedly a bad brand.
Right, and so that's helpful. If you look at YouTube, yeah, you can do the Mentos thing and you can make money on viral, but YouTube said this week that they're paying hundreds of people 6 figures and thousands 5 figures a year on YouTube.
Wow.
That probably doesn't come from one video off at a time. It probably comes from building a brand and having a following.
Right.
And so I think that starts to matter here too, is that you want to, I mean, Ehow had a brand. I think it got ruined when it got bought. But that's one of the signals you have, is this is a reliable home for good stuff.
Right. Interesting. Demand Media's CEO says it didn't affect us. We're not journalists. We don't care, blah, blah, blah. This is Mike Shields writing in Adweek this week. Richard Rosenblatt, co-founder and CEO of Demand Media, when he heard that Google was changing its algorithm with an intent to weed out content produced by companies like his, he didn't panic. He shrugged.
What else is he going to say?
Well, but
right. I mean, what else can you say? That's why I was surprised by Jason. I mean, Jason.
Boy, did he jump on it. I mean, he jumped on it. They fired 10% of their staff.
I mean, that seems like an instant admission of kind of failure. I mean, it's kind of like saying, like, yeah, our content wasn't up to snuff. Wasn't up to snuff enough for Google.
Jason Calacanis and Mahalo President Jason Rapp sent out a mass emailing saying, among other things, that Google's changes have led to a significant dip in our traffic and revenue.
I wonder if there's not something else going on there. Is Jason wears the hair shirt well?
Yeah, you're right.
Is he now going to say, big bad Google is messing with me? I'm not like those guys. And he overreacted. He's the king of overreaction.
He may, in fact, have just used this as an excuse to do something he needed or wanted to do.
I think it's that. I think this now gives him the ability to act like he's poor Jason, and to act as if Google is the enemy of his business. And he'll use this cynically and opportunistically. Love you, Jason, but it's what you do.
Consider the source. I think that's what you're saying. We don't know, but consider the source.
Yeah.
Right. And it looks like a reason to switch to more video content to kind of pivot a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And go.
Right, which is Demand Media is the number one contributor of video to YouTube. Video is really what they do.
Jason and Jason say, interestingly, the search side of Google has impacted us negatively. Google's video unit, YouTube, continues to be our strong partner, encouraging us to ramp up our video production and publish even more of our expert video lessons.
Yeah, you're right. It's a pivot. Gina, you're right. It's an opportunistic pivot.
It's a pivot.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like it could be. I wonder if Google uses the data that they gather through Google Analytics to...
I hope not.
To check to see, kind of how these algorithms change. It's interesting, because Google knows how a lot of these sites do in their own search results.
Wouldn't that be a breach? Wouldn't that be somehow a breach of confidentiality? If one hand is saying, we know a lot of stuff about these sites, you want to share that with Matt here?
But you know what? They don't need to use analytics. They can use AdSense. A lot of these sites are serving Google ads, and Google knows everything about them.
Well, even then, I don't think they should be using that, should they?
Well, but why not? Because in the sense that they need to know where ads perform.
Well, because if it got out, that then people would say, "Oh, I'm not going to use AdSense. I'll be a partner with somebody else. I don't want to have my site search results deprecated because of information Google has gleaned from us being a customer."
That's the point.
That's not so good.
It's good. I'm sure it has to be addressed somewhere in the analytics terms of use. It's interesting to me that they do both website traffic reporting and have such a big impact on what those numbers would be.
They know. I mean, if they were to combine all these different information sources, they would absolutely know everything they need to know. And maybe they have never said that they don't. I don't know. It would certainly make people stop using analytics and AdSense if they knew that.
Well, this is the kind of channel conflicts you get now.
It's a channel conflict.
Right.
But, how do you handle that as a company? Don't you build a firewall, a Chinese wall? Don't you?
Right. That's how you'd have to do it. At this point, I mean, Google Analytics is, I hate the days of Webalizer and what was that other really bad? I mean, Google Analytics is kind of
so good. Well, they bought Urchin, and Urchin was very good, and they bought it and incorporated it. But there are other goods. I think Quantcast is actually better, don't you? I mean, those are numbers you can sell. I don't think.
Yeah, and that's in fact. I'm pretty sure that Gawker uses Quantcast now. But Quantcast, I'm not sure how it works. I mean, it's not. Do you embed a JavaScript bug?
Yep, same thing.
Okay, you do.
Yep.
Okay.
Same exact thing as analytics.
Right. It's not like a toolbar or an estimation.
No, like Alexa or something.
That makes
No. Those are
okay.
useless.
Yeah.
No, it has to be direct measurement of visits.
Right.
Speaking of which, at some point I want to talk to you about hashbangs in the URLs. Have you been following this discussion?
I mean, only insofar as
You have to recuse yourself because Gawker is a big Hashbang user.
Yeah, they're a big Hashbang user, and it's making me crazy because I'm editing a Lifehacker book right now, and all the URLs in the book actually have the Hashbang in it. It sort of offends my sense of URL-ness.
I think this is the show to talk about it, but I don't want you to feel a conflict. We could use Twitter uses it too. Anybody who uses a lot of Ajax is using it.
GitHub uses it. Yep.
GitHub uses it. GitHub apparently uses it intelligently, though.
Oh, okay. Like they use it in issues for sure in the issue tracker, but maybe not in other places.
Well, we'll talk about that. There's a new Google profile search. I hope it makes profiles more usable, not less. I'm a little worried that it's separate from Google itself, but we'll talk about that and a lot more. You're watching This Week in Google. Google in the Cloud with Jeff Jarvis, Gina Trapani, brought to you today by Squarespace. Now, speaking of clouds, this is a cloud application for your website. I guess all websites are cloud applications, but the software for Squarespace and the hosting for Squarespace are both from Squarespace. And there's an advantage to doing it that way because it's always up to date. You don't have to even think about that. That's just part of the deal as it comes up to date. They have such control of the situation that they can throw more bandwidth at you. They've got very sophisticated Java-based virtual hosting and so forth. It's just really nicely done. These guys, Dane and Anthony, wrote this in college as a solution for themselves, and now, of course, years later, it's become, many agree, the best solution for a website, for a content management system. I want you to try it for free. If you go to squarespace.com/twig, it's very easy. There's no credit card needed. Just you name the site, you give it a password, an email address in case you forget the password. You don't even have to type the password twice. I love that. And a little CAPTCHA here. And now for 2 weeks, you've got the full benefit of Squarespace, the 60-plus designer templates that are so easy to configure with just sliders and drag and drop. Of course, if you're a CSS wizard or a JavaScript wizard, you could do the Hashbangs. You could do anything you need. It's all in there. That's the beauty of this. Squarespace.com/twig. A great iPhone and iPad app make it easy to not only post content, but to moderate comments. Complete integration with your social media network. Importing and exporting. You're never trapped from the major blog APIs, including Movable Type, WordPress, TypePad, and Blogger. They've got photo galleries, forums, just everything you'd want in a simple point-and-click environment that makes you look like a web pro. Just take a look at the examples. You'll get some idea. This is what big businesses are using, individuals for their blogs, charities, anybody who needs a website, and you really need a website. Trust me. Don't trust your presence on the web to Facebook. That'd be a mistake. Here's Kevin Pollak's site. Here's our site. Our TWiT blog is a Squarespace site. And look how fast that pops up. Squarespace.com/twig. Give it a try today. You will love it. So, I don't know. Should we get into this Hashbang thing, Gina, or is that really the weeds?
No, we absolutely can. I mean, I'm fine. I'm fine with it. It's crazy. I'm actually reading a couple of.
There's some good blog. Yeah, there's some good blog posts.
There's some good blog. Oh, Tim Bray kind of weighed in. A few designers. Listen, the reality is a URL should point to a piece of content, and Hashbang URLs depend on JavaScript to fetch content to load inside, which is what the Gawker sites do. Gawker is a company I worked at for 5 years. I own stock there. That doesn't mean that I can't criticize them a little bit. It's weird. It drives me a little crazy. I think they're crazy. I have not looked at their Google Analytics in a really long time, so I'm not sure how it affected their
Google
kind of
apparently
SEO
got
issues.
a way around it, but it's kind of a kludgy way around it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't just, if you're a content publisher, why your URL wouldn't just be a regular string with the words of your headline in it, which is what Lifehacker and the other Gawker sites URLs used to be. I mean, that just seems like good.
That's what I think.
It's just straightforward HTTP.
I think it was Twitter that started this. So if I go to twitter.com/Gina Trapani, watch what happens. It transforms itself to the Hashbang, twitter.com/#! That's called a Hashbang / Gina Trapani.
Hashbangification of the web. Well, it's really like the web appification of the web, right? So like the Hashbang on Twitter started when they did the new Twitter redesign, right? Which is very like iPad web appy like, right? You tap and that side panel flies out. It's much more kind of Ajaxy.
But you could do this in HTML5 without a Hashbang, with real URLs. I guess what it is, I think it's mostly Node.js that people are using. And everybody loves Node.js. Developers love it. So what it means is when you go to twitter.com, the browser actually doesn't get Gina Trapani's content. It gets a big-ass chunk of JavaScript, which it runs locally on your machine, and that generates the page.
Right.
Fetching bits of, these are all different bits of content. So there is no twitter.com/Gina Trapani. It doesn't exist, and that's what part of the difficulty with Google is. There's no page for them to index, and Google spiders don't run JavaScript. So there's a kind
doesn't that hurt Gawker at some point?
You'd think, but Google does apparently some sort of workaround that makes it possible.
I mean, from a developer point of view, it's attractive, right? Because it's this separation of content and presentation. That you're getting this.
Right.
I assume that it's JSON or XML, probably most likely JSON,
Yep.
and then showing itself. And I really haven't kept up with this, so I'm not sure what Google's doing to see those pages. It seems strange that you'd want to depend on a Google's kind of workaround.
It's very inside baseball, but if you have lately noticed, for instance, not unusual for me to go to Twitter and get a blank page. That's because something's gone wrong. I've got the chunk of JavaScript and it didn't, or whatever.
Well, Facebook, it happens to me all the time.
Facebook, same. It's using Hashbangs as well. Oh. And so there is a side effect in reliability and performance. There's definitely a side effect in indexing, and URLs no longer really refer to content.
Well, here's the other thing. I think MSNBC has said that they're going away from pages.
Right. Well, everybody
Pages
is. This is the
meme.
web, as Gina said, the web application.
Right. So it's a window. It's a TV screen. It's a whatever,
Right.
and stuff just comes onto it.
Right.
And that's where we go. And that's okay. But so much of the architecture of how we do the web, including the commerce of the web and things like that, is based on pages. Should it be? That's a different question.
So
a lot of it is push too. That you want to be able to push content and get auto refreshing. Someone in the chat room helpfully gave me the link to making Ajax applications crawlable. Is if you Google that's the document for how Google works around this. But you basically instruct the Google bot. This is an Ajax application, and here's how to get the content, which makes sense. But yes, the URL is driving me crazy. I'm not a big fan of the hashbang.
Yeah. Well, I just started discovering this whole discussion about this on the web, and I thought, I thought I'd like to bring it up and just raise people's awareness of it, and probably too inside baseball for us to discuss. Nevertheless, I think fascinating, and maybe at another time. We need a web developer show so we could talk about stuff like this. I would point people to Chris Shiflett's blog, which is shiflett.org, and he has a good article on this, linking to all of the big articles, including Tim Bray's article about this, and it basically violates Postel's law, which is be conservative in what you give and liberal in what you accept. And fascinating. I think it's fascinating, but enough of that. What about this new profile search? So Google has a profile search engine?
Yeah, so Google operating system uncovered this, which is a great blog for all sorts of Google product tips. They found that there's a way to search Google profiles if you add a URL parameter, right? So this isn't the profile search isn't exposed in Google's interface right now, but likely it will be, right? This is usually how they kind of start to roll these things out. Right. If you add, so what is the
query is, so you go to google.com/profile/u/0?, and then the query is specified by Q equals in the query. For instance, if I do Q equals Leo, I'll find all the profiles of people with the name Leo,
right,
including mine at the top there. So
it's a people search. It's the beginning of another kind of.
What happened to Google Me? Is this part of a Google Me?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on with Google Me.
It's as fabled as HTML5 taking over the world.
It's like Duke Nukem Forever. It's just, it's imaginary.
Right. I mean, I think from what I understand, the last I heard about it is that Google Me is not really a single standalone Google Me product. It's just these slow and steady social improvements.
Right.
Yeah,
like this, like this ability to search profiles.
Right.
But I think it goes back to what Denny. I think I don't know if we're going to talk about this separately, but Facebook's distributed comment structure to discuss
I love Discuss. I use Discuss.
Architecture.
Yeah.
Right.
Is Facebook using
Facebook
Discuss
is
now?
No. Facebook's competing with Discuss.
Oh, are they?
What
yeah, you can
do
embed
now,
Facebook comments.
Never!
yes, which means that when you go to the site, you can see just the comments of your friends.
Oh, I
They
should
are
probably do that.
prioritized differently. It now makes a portability that you can put them on Facebook and share your comments somewhere else, which is kind of nice. It's kind of like, So what that means is Facebook steps closer to being the identity structure of the web.
Which they've always wanted.
They've always wanted to be. And I've argued that there's some danger there because you've got to know what's happening with what you do out on the web and how it relates to what happens inside Facebook. But having said that, they're just comments.
Right.
And if you're putting them out on the open web, they're on the open web. So now you can have a new ability to not only sign in with Facebook, but share via Facebook. And I think most importantly, get the social benefits of comments. So it means you can see only people who sign in with Facebook and have real identities, which presumably will improve the civility of the comments, which is the big issue with comments. And you can also get the social value so that you see comments prioritized for you, if I got all this right. That's a big deal, and that beats search and profile pages.
Right.
It does. Basically, as a publisher, you give up your ability to host the conversations about your own content in your own database for all the sort of sticky social things that Facebook offers, which is,
right. I mean, you can do it now with Discuss, which is great, right, Gina? But
right.
This now adds things to it that poor Discuss can't do because it's not Facebook.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I use a similar system, JS Kit's Echo, which does the same thing. It pulls in from Facebook and all the others. But boy, when Facebook does it, the problem is Facebook's not going to support all the other stuff. It's going to be Facebook, right? Like Discuss and JS Kit Echo will give you Twitter, so it's great because if you write a blog post, tweet it, all the comments from Twitter are pulled in, all the comments for Facebook are pulled in. I love that.
Right, and that's the thing, right? That's the thing that's going to differentiate anyone else's offering from Facebook's.
Right.
If you go to Inside Facebook, for example, or SB Nation, you'll see it in operation. So InsideFacebook.com, and then go to a post there, and at the bottom, it just says leave a reply, and it's a Facebook box. It's so familiar. There it is. It's Facebook.
Oh, wow.
It's add a comment.
As a dumb developer, my first reaction was, why would any publisher do this?
Oh, I could tell you why.
But, yeah.
It drives traffic.
Drives traffic.
Yeah, you can drive traffic back.
So where is it that I do this?
Go down, Leo. Keep
Below
going
the ads? Oh, there it is. Oh, look, there's my Facebook picture. It knows me.
You're logged in.
Oh, crap.
Yep.
Now, if I add a comment, does that also go in my see, post to Facebook?
You have the option. Yep.
But that's why they do it, because then my Facebook friends see my comment. Maybe you're driven back to this page. It drives traffic. And we know the like button drives huge amounts of traffic.
Right.
So
I'm one of the ones who made fun of like and said, who wants to do that? And that's going to, spook on me the way I'm on the web. No, I was wrong.
So now they've got the like button. They've got the activity feed plugin. They've got recommendations, the like box, the login button, the registration button, the facepile button, the comments button, and the live.
Well, here's the really important thing, Gina. I think in terms of why else publishers would do it, is that one of the huge problems, it's a big cost for publishers to have to manage comments.
And this kind of handles spam automatically, right? Because
not only that, but also you have to have an identity. I mean, Facebook's bloodstream. They wouldn't even change their rules for Wael Ghonim from Google when he had the fake identity to do the page, and they had to find somebody else who was sympathetic to the cause to have them be the host of it, because Facebook is not going to get off the real identity, nor should they. I think get off Facebook. That's what they are. And that brings value back to the publisher in terms of improving the civility and reducing the cost and improving the engagement people have with their site. It's brilliant. Brilliant.
Right. But can publishers export or get access to all the comments specifically related to their content?
Yeah, but you know what? Hold on, Gina. Why would they? What in 10 years has publishers done anything with their comments?
Well, but they should be, right? This is a community who's saying things about what they're doing. Like, what's the point of having a community if you're not going to do anything with the conversations that they're having around your stuff? I don't think that anyone is doing it.
So
What's
it
that?
really is a question then of why you do comments, why you do community. Is it to drive more traffic, to get more engagement, or is it because you care what people say? And I would guess in many cases it's the former. You don't really care what people are saying. You
But
just
you
want.
should care what people say.
Yes, Gina.
If you care about your community, you care what
You're
they say.
so old-fashioned.
Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus.
No, I'm with you. I agree with you 100%. That's the only way in the
they
long
should.
run.
You're absolutely right, but they don't.
This
They've had 10
difference
years to
between
do it with comments. I dealt with comments all the time, and publishers, and I lectured them and told them to do comments and all that, and they hate them. They hate comments.
But this is the difference between the D-bags and the people who care about the web.
Well, guess
You know,
what? The
one-
D-bags are here, baby.
No, they totally aren't. I think they should embed Facebook comments. I think everyone else, should maybe also, but also be worried about ways or be concerned about ways to get that data and do something more with that data to respond to their community and, figure out how to engage people a little more.
I've
Based on that
resisted
concept.
putting like buttons and tweet buttons on our content.
You need to.
Stupidly, foolishly, for that very reason, Gina. I don't want the Facebookification of the internet. But of course, it's.
Come to the light.
I know I'm dumb, and as
I'm doing my Zuckerberg
by
imitation.
doing so, I'm actually hurting you guys.
This is hurting me now.
He's stuck. I think he's stuck. Because that's.
Yeah, this is where we are now. And Gina, another view I have of comments is that I was always religious about how sites should have comments. This is where your relationship is, and blah, 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 blah. And I came to see that I was wrong to this extent. Comments, by their very architecture, in content at least, say to the public, we don't want to hear from you until after we're done. And after we're done, we will deign to allow you to comment on our work.
Yeah.
And you know what? We're going to go to the bar. We don't care what you have to say. And we're going to come back, and we're going to see all the broken glass and all this, and we're going to say, see, the people are bozos. Whereas true collaboration means you move people up the chain. You collaborate much earlier in the process, and you say, what should I be doing today? What do you want me to do? What do you want to know? What do you know?
Yes.
Let's work together, right? All of that. That does not happen out of comments. That's going to happen in other structures and other ways that you do things collaboratively together. So the spirit of collaboration, I think that got kind of not even collaboration. The idea that a relationship was formed badly in comments, and I blamed publishers for doing that. And I'm not sure that I fully should have. I certainly should to some extent, but I think the architecture of comments is wrong.
I agree with you. I totally agree with the after the fact point that you just made. But I do think that Twitter and Facebook are places where you can ask before you write the story, respond to people during the writing of the story, post the story, and then collect the comments after the story. And yes, there's the one writer, right? But you still have the community engaged around. And I've done this. And we do it on Lifehacker. I feel like this whole I don't know, when you treat your community just like eyeballs and not like humans who are part of the collaboration.
Amen. I think there's another way to look at this. Another way to look at this is, I have never said this before, so I'll regret this in 10 minutes. I almost wonder whether you kill comments. It's the kind of thing Nick Denton would say.
I have, and on some of our content, I don't do content.
And the problem is, and I condemned that before. I said that was chicken, and you're not investing in the community. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. Well, maybe there are now better tools to truly interact.
Right, like IRC.
And like maybe Facebook, and certainly like Twitter.
Yep.
Right? Twitter
we
is
have Get Satisfaction. I just don't want to have comments right under the shows because there were all these trolls who would say bad things about the shows, and then I felt like people would go to the shows and see the bad comments and never listen. So I've moved them elsewhere, in effect.
Right. I mean, listen, this is why I love Wave so much, right? Because Wave was all about collaboration from start to finish.
If all users were as much part of the community, that wouldn't be so bad. But there's not just D-bag content creators, there's D-bag users too. Oh,
absolutely. Yep.
Well, that's the other problem is that not to get way high at the altitude and low in the oxygen. What I say to people is that we in media, godlike in our own image, see the internet as a medium, and so we think that when people leave nasty comments, they've schmutzed it all and ruined it.
Right.
And it's not. It's the streets of New York.
Right.
There are bozos in the streets of New York. Right. The internet is life. Ergo, there are going to be bozos in the internet. And you just have to realize that and work with that and put the investment in to have the right interactions at the right time with people in ways that truly matter and give them respect.
And speaking for big media companies, it can be challenging because if you have a large audience, it's non-trivial to interact.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
It's very expensive. I mean, there are companies, there's one called Live Nation or something like that, Live World, that has been doing this for years of having people, police the comments. You have to invest because if you don't, you're showing no respect to the community either. If you don't get rid of the bozos.
Right. But this is the thing. You can't. But when you have a business that's based around making content, it's not about hiring police. Like you have to change your whole. Your business is having a conversation and engaging in community of people on the web. When you're on the web, you're about communicating with people. You're not about publishing articles. So I totally see your point, Jeff, about comments after the fact being sort of useless, and maybe we can just get them to Facebook because they are sort of useless because there is someone just from on high posting, and then they have to hire all these people to like delete the trolls. But you can't look at it that way. I mean, the publications that are going to win are the publications that are about having conversations with their readers and engaging their readers the whole way.
You are preaching to the choir, Reverend Gina. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
I absolutely agree. But in practicality, what happens is when I was running local sites, NJ.com and OregonLive.com and all those, and we had the comments, we had the problems you have, I thought that what we needed was every forum. That those days it was forums, not comments, way back in the day. And I thought we needed to hire moderators. We hired moderators, right? And it didn't work. And then I hired this really good social guy named Mark. And he said, no, Jarvis, you're all wrong here. That's like saying that you want the mayor who should be kissing babies to be out there cleaning up the garbage. There are people who are going to come in who are just going to schmutz the space, and you got to deal with that. If you don't invest in that and dealing with that, then everybody's going to hate you for it. You got to do that. You have to have a cleanup crew for the bozos. That's not the heart of your interaction with your public.
Right.
That's an obligation that comes so you can have good interaction with your public because you can't just assume that the bozos will disappear on their own. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right. That makes sense. I'm with you.
They're different functions. They're functions. Right. So back to Facebook. So Facebook, by having real identity and having the ability as a user to prioritize my friends, if I'm a place like Huffington or SB Nation, if I were a Knicks fan in there, then I could see my friends, and that takes care of a lot of that function.
Right. So Facebook gives you the facility with the cleaning crew built in.
To some extent. It turns it around. Rather than cleaning, it merely, okay, let's metaphor time.
It brings you to the room with your friends in it automatically.
It's Clay Shirky's filter failure. It's a new kind of filter. Rather than playing whack-a-mole with the bad people, what you do is you promote the good. Which is a better model, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that's
why
we're all going to have Facebook comments on our pages.
Yes, we are.
Damn it.
I'm going to set this up on my blog right after.
Damn it. I'll put Facebook on. You know what? As an experiment, we should try that on the TWiT page because that's the place I turned off comments. I have comments on my blog and everywhere else. But on the TWiT page, maybe I'll turn them on and see what happens. Boy, am I going to regret that. We got to take a...
Okay, one second. The press release I got from David Swain at Facebook. 4 publishers, easy to implement, distribution, moderation controls, higher engagement.
Yes.
4 users, authentic commenting and social context, see the best of comments first, moderation and spam control, take the conversation farther, threaded comments, and comment as page.
That's pretty compelling.
Page owners can comment on external sites as their Facebook page.
Oh, I think
You're logged into Facebook. You'll see the option to comment as your page. The comment will be shared on your page's wall, blah, 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 blah. So that's what they built here rather quietly. I think it's a big deal.
It's very compelling. In fact, it's exactly what I want. And I'll probably turn it on this afternoon on the TWiT TV page.
Leo, if Gina can buy an iPad, you can use Facebook.
God, I know. This whole episode is just about turncoats.
God, I hate that. We have to take a break and get our tooltip and number of the week. Before we do, though, a couple of quick hits. First of all, apparently Facebook raises self-esteem. In a study, 63 students who looked at Facebook, a mirror, or nothing for 3 minutes The Facebook group was only allowed to surf their pages and tabs, not their friends. After each student took a self-esteem questionnaire, those who studied surf Facebook reported having higher self-esteem. Those who stared at nothing or the mirror, no change.
How clever am I? It's the witch, isn't it? Mirror on the wall. Who's the coolest of them all?
The honeycomb statue has arrived at the lawn on Google's campus. That means honeycomb is coming soon. This is a good one.
It is, but is the bee going to kill the poor little android guy?
He does look a little terrified.
It looks a little menacing.
I thought it was interesting that Steve Jobs in the iPad launch today used that bee to stand in for honeycomb in all of his critiques of Android. I thought that was kind of, boy, Apple's not slow to pick up on semiotics. They see the bee as threatening, too. We're going to take a break, come back in just a second with any other quick things we want to get in here? There's so much stuff. Have you updated your gingerbread? Have you gotten it yet, Gina?
Yes, I have. I did not wait for the
You did it manually.
I did the manual as soon as I heard it was the official zip file. I did it manually. I couldn't stop myself, and I like it. It's nice. It's darker, smoother. There isn't anything that's like standout marquee about it that I'm like head over heels for, but it's definitely a nice smooth little upgrade.
You're just happy about that.
Yeah, finally.
And you can be reassured there will be, in fact, no Charlie Sheen talk today. On the other hand, we might mention the Oscars. I don't know. Were you happy, sad?
About the Oscars or about Sheen? Sad about Sheen.
No,
neutral about the Oscars.
How do we combine them? We could say, who's winning?
My face is melting. All right, let's take a break. Come back with more. Gina Trapani, Jeff Jarvis, This Week in Google. Tech news today coming up in just a moment. Before we go there, I want to mention Freshbooks.com, a great way if you're a freelancer or small business person or sole proprietor to do your invoicing. It's always a hassle. It's the thing I hated doing so much till I found FreshBooks back in 2004. That's when I started using them. It's a website that lets you do your invoicing on the web, but it makes it easier for you to get paid, and I kind of like that notion. If you go to freshbooks.com, you'll see you can sign up for free for up to 3 clients, so it's a good way to get started. If you want paper invoices sent, they will do it for an additional fee. Your logo goes on the invoice. But once you send out an invoice via email, your clients can pay you via credit card, PayPal, or 11 other electronic payment services. That just means you get paid faster and easier. They will also do things like tickle you when you haven't gotten paid automatically. Automated late payment reminders. If you invoice by the hour, if you do time tracking and billing, you can log your hours. They have an iPhone app or on the web, and then consolidate those timesheets right into the invoice with a push of a button. 2 million people use FreshBooks to do their invoicing. I use it for a long time now. Of course, I have a pretty large staff. It costs me a lot more. I really liked FreshBooks, and I think you will too. If you are doing your own invoicing, I want you to go to freshbooks.com and try it today. Painless billing. Gina Trapani, your tip of the week.
Picasso Web Albums does not.
Yes.
Yeah, they do not. They just changed their calculations for how they calculate how much storage space you've used.
Yes.
They do not count small images. So images under 800 pixels wide or videos shorter than 15 minutes don't get counted toward your storage quota usage. So if you haven't looked at Picasso Web Albums in a while, there's also a front page change. They list your friends' photos. They're trying to make this a little more of a just trying to improve the photo sharing capabilities. So there's a new front page update, but they do not count 800 pixel wide photos and videos. So
that's cool.
Go ahead and upload your archives there, Picasso Web Albums. I'm not quite convinced to leave Flickr yet, but I'm getting there. I really like the way Picasso Web Albums is integrated into Android. It's much easier to share images in PWA via Android. So
and they show up in your gallery, which is really great.
Yeah, which is really nice.
I'm a big fan of this, and you're right. I mean, I wish it would kind of become as big as Flickr, because I'd love to use this instead of Flickr.
Yes.
And I paid for more. I paid for like hundreds of gigs. I don't know how much storage I have, but I've always liked this. It's cool stuff.
And it cooks right into the desktop Picasso, which I love with the facial recognition. It's a good product, and this little change, this algorithm change, has made me kind of take a look at it. If you don't pay for the extra storage, you can send a lot of photos up there at a smaller resolution and without using up your space.
Right. Your number of the week, Mr. Jarvis.
Well, I'll tell you, it will not be that Charlie Sheen is about to hit 1 million followers.
Is he really?
In a day, yeah.
My gosh, already?
965,815.
Well,
he is winning.
I wrote a post. Yeah, he's winning. Winning. I wrote a post complaining about how I think that he was used by press who put him on as if he wasn't sick and didn't have a problem, and they enabled that. But we the people are doing it. We're following on Facebook. We're giving him plenty of attention on Facebook, on Twitter.
when did he join?
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah, Howard Stern hasn't risen so fast.
Well, people are hoping he'll have a meltdown on Twitter. That's all. It's just our pathetic little love of. It's sad because there's so much real news and important stuff that this gets all the press everywhere.
Yeah.
Sad commentary, frankly.
So that's not my number.
What is your number?
My number is number 2. Bing is now number 2 worldwide.
Ooh.
But don't get excited. Google's global market share in February was 89.94. Bing's was 4.37. Yahoo's 3.93. And, of course, Yahoo is Bing, so it adds up okay. But Yahoo losing, isn't necessarily a good thing for Bing.
Does anybody, who uses Bing? Anybody out there? Bueller? It's pretty.
Yeah.
Almost too pretty. You feel like it's heavyweight, right?
Search engine, but, typical for Microsoft, they're fighting yesterday's war.
Yeah, because it ain't search.
Compare all this effort they put into Bing versus what Facebook just did with comments. What's a better business strategy?
Yeah, boy.
So anyway, that's that.
My tool of the week this week is an Android app. Foodspotting has come to Android. I don't know if you're familiar with Foodspotting, but it's a social network that is about checking into restaurants, most particularly checking into foodstuffs at restaurants. So you take a picture of a meal you liked, you can add nom nom noms. It's nice now because tied into the phone, you can see where you are and you can see what's good around here. So this is food that's nearby.
It should be called fat gaining.
Food spotting. And now, by the way, it works with a Foursquare, too. So you can do a food spotting check-in, and it will also check into Foursquare for you.
Theo, can you search just for meat?
Meat. Probably. I don't know. That's a good question. Low-carb food spotting? I don't know. That chicken and prosciutto sandwich looks pretty damn good.
Oh, man. I spent way too much time, drooling over images of...
Now it's on Android, food spotting. By the way,
what a great idea, though. Show me the food button near me.
Show me the food.
Show me the food. Forget the name of the restaurant. Forget the map. Show me
the food.
The money.
Exactly.
Show me the food.
Exactly. But the fact that this is on Android and in such a beautiful way, I mean, this is every bit as pretty as the iPhone app, shows that Android, I think, for a lot of these kinds of companies is absolutely a parody now. And in fact, you have to be on this platform.
Not for Gina.
I know. She's going the other way. What's wrong with you?
I'm excited to use Flipboard on the iPad. There's only a few apps now that are just iOS only.
Flipboard is truly awesome, and I can't wait till there's an Android version. Although I've moved now to the Nokia N8. I think this is the future. Doesn't that look like the future of phones?
Clearly, that is the future.
Oh, baby. This is what a cell phone was meant to be.
Nokia is the General Motors of cell phones.
It's going to slide any minute now. Serious. 12-megapixel camera. Thing's like a truck. Why did I buy this? What is wrong with me?
You bought it?
Well, I want to give him a chance. I want to give him a fair break. I forget.
But it's not Windows operating system, is it?
No, it's Symbian.
Yeah, it's still Symbian, yeah.
I used to like Symbian. I don't know.
Yeah, Symbian was my first smartphone.
Yeah, it was my first. I had a Scion. I loved it. I just wish I could. I haven't figured this out yet. I'm sure there must be some way I can log into my Google accounts. No. So I have to enter in all my contacts by hand? You must be joking.
That's total BS.
And you want to see the keyboard? Wait a minute. Let me see if I can get the keyboard. Oh, I love the keyboard on this. It's a phone pad. It's not a keyboard. It's a phone pad. It's like,
no.
Yes. Yes. It's hard to believe. I know. Anyway. Food spotting.
Fat Fat gaining.
Fat gaining. Gina Trapani is at smarterwear.org, where she blogs. You also see her on Lifehacker, many other places, and of course, her great app. Someday, are you going to ever? Is that going to ever be released to the world at large? Think up.
We are working on our 1.0 roadmap, but we've been in alpha and beta for a year now, so we're getting to a place where we're going to be ready to say this is actually ready.
Good. Exciting.
Close. Next few months.
I love it.
Great show, guys.
Jeff Jarvis, the author of What Would Google Do? He's also a blogger at buzzmachine.com. I am going to thank you both for being here. I'm going to wind us up with a movie from Google circa 1999. This was when they had, get this, 9 employees. This is what a big company looks like 11 years ago. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us. That's Google. 19.
The Googleplex.
The Googleplex. They were
1.0.
big into Tinker Toys.
Alpha. At one point, there's a screen with like recent Google searches.
It's good this
It's
stuff
like-
exists, just so we know, It's so cool.
Everyone has humble beginnings. That's the life lesson here.
Yeah, love it. These videos.
I love it that it's the company with no people.
Yeah, they probably. Look, there's their bookshelf.
O'Reilly
man, bad
books.
video.
A lot of
skills.
O'Reilly on there. I have like 3/4 of those
XML.
books. I have all of these books. Mathematica, Virus Scan. That's fun.
Iris scam.
Oh, I forgot
So
to mention,
excited.
we're going to Austin. Let me add that. Plug that into the end of the show. We will be at Austin you guys will be with me. We'll be doing the show live from Momo's on Sunday, March 13th. Starts at 1 o'clock with the radio show. At 4 o'clock, it's TNT. 5 o'clock, it's TWiT with Gina, Jeff, and a whole bunch of other people. And our meetup at 7 o'clock. Please stop by Momo's. 21 and older, I'm sorry. If you're under 21, you just have to stand outside.
That is if we don't get trampled at the Apple Store on the 11th.
Well,
or
actually,
12th.
we were going to cover that live at the Austin Apple Store. That might be fun, too. All right, Gina. Will
Bye,
you have
guys.
it? Will
Take
you have
care.
it? Will you have it when you come to Austin?
No, I'm in the air at 5, so
Yeah,
I
I
land
guess
at like
you won't.
7:30 Friday night.
Join us.
so if I-
Good. We're all going to be going. We get there around 9. We're all going to be going to the Austin Apple Store around 10 o'clock on Friday night.
Oh, around 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
Well, totally. I'm
we'll
there.
stay in touch.
Yeah, we'll
gonna
stay in
be
touch. I'll join you. That'd be fun.
Join the party. We'll have
Bye,
the
guys.
live view. I'll show Gina buying
I'll
her
go
first.
buy a Zoom.
Yeah, we'll show Gina buying her first iOS device.
Oh, man, I don't know. I might get there might be a revolt.
Revolting.